welcome to our program. And thank you, Paul, for your service and for having this interview with us today.
You're welcome.
All right, as we get into this, I know now you're about to turn 93.
1 month from today.
1 month from today. So we're going back a long way. But I'd like you to share with our viewers how this all got started. I mean, I know that you were a young man, maybe about 19 or so.
19.
And what we want to do is find out where you were born and how you got into the military, your decision.
I was born in Terre Haute, Indiana, in 1924.
1924.
And I moved to Sullivan, Indiana, about 1930.
So is that where you went to school then in Sullivan?
That's where I went to school and graduated from high school. In fact, I got a picture of the high school up there.
So you graduated from high school, and then were you drafted, or did you decide to go in?
I graduated from high school in 1942, and I sat around waiting to get drafted until March of 43. And they drafted me in March 15, 1943.
So where did you go from there? Where was your training?
Camp Wheeler, Georgia.
Oh my, okay. So that's quite a distance.
Actually, I reported in Fort Benjamin Harrison when I got drafted, and then they sent me from there to Camp Wheeler, Georgia for basic training.
Now, had you been out of Indiana before that? Had you
just across in Ohio? I mean, in Illinois. I had relatives in Illinois we used to go visit.
Okay, so now you're down in training in Georgia.
Yeah, training in Camp Wheeler, Georgia.
So how long were you there before you got into the war, or where did you go from Georgia?
Well, we put 13 weeks there. I had 5 weeks training as a soldier, and then I had 8 weeks technical training as a mechanic. Then I went to, well, actually, I went to a couple of different camps here in town in the United States, transferring, getting ready to go overseas. I left from Virginia when I went overseas. We went on the Empress of Scotland. It was a cruise ship that they had converted to a troop carrier. Took us 4 days to get to North Africa.
Wow. So your first assignment then was North Africa, and this is what? This is back in 1940.
43.
43.
Right after I got drafted. I got drafted in March, and I was in Casablanca, Africa in July of 43. And then we joined the 36th Division as replacements before they made the invasion of Salerno. And after Salerno, then we went in as replacements for the people that got killed. I went in the service company, actually, because I was trained as a mechanic. And somebody remembered all the records, and that I was supposed to be a mechanic, so they put me in the service company we stayed in service company till about March of 44, I guess.
So what kinds of things were you doing there then?
I was working on Jeeps and stuff.
Okay.
While I was in the service company.
So you were with the 36th Infantry Division then?
Yeah. 36th Infantry. And after I guess it was right after they made the Rapido River, tried to cross the Rapido River, they needed a replacement, so they pulled me out of service company and put me in A company, a rifle company. And I stayed there until the end of the war.
When was it that you went over to Italy? Because I know you were involved in going into Rome.
Well, I went over to Italy, and let's see, they made the invasion, I believe, in August. I went the last part of August.
Now, when you went into the invasion of Italy, or when you went into Italy, was that a little bit before D-Day?
Almost a year before D-Day. I went into Italy and as a replacement, and as I say, we moved on up, and And I transferred from service company to rifle company, and then we went on up and took Rome. And like I said, we moved in the edge of Rome, and then we made the breakout at Anzio. We went from Naples to Anzio and made the breakout there for them, my division. And when we made the breakout, we just kept going right on up to Rome. I think it took us something like 30 days to make it walk up that far.
What kind of losses did your division suffer? I mean, I think it's wonderful that you're sitting here talking with us today, but I know there were a lot of casualties during that time.
Well, I don't know. They couldn't shoot straight, I guess, because they never hit me. I made it all the way through Rome to the end of the war without getting scratched. Some of the guys were pretty unlucky. We had one platoon sergeant. He got wounded, went to the hospital, came back. He got wounded again and went to the hospital, came back, and he said, this time in Italy, one of the little rivers there, I don't even remember the name of it. He said, this time I'm not going to get wounded again. So he dug down about 6 feet and back into the wall about 5 feet. And he got down and crawled in there to spend the night. They threw one shell in the area. There were some trees there. You could see where the shrapnel ricocheted off and went right down, got him in the back again.
So did he survive that one?
Yeah, but he didn't come back to the outfit again. Once you got wounded 3 times, you didn't come back.
So then he was able to be discharged then, or
he went to, like I say, he went to the hospital. I don't know where he went from there. But he was the unluckiest guy I ever saw.
So you were so your whole division was part of the liberation of Rome then?
Oh, definitely. We were the first ones in Rome, my division. When we moved into Rome, like I said, we moved in, and I think it was the 3rd Division moved in and relieved us. And we moved on out on trucks on the other side of Rome and started bivouacking there. And then they sent us on 24-hour leave back to Rome.
So did you have any time to spend just sort of enjoying Rome or the way it was then?
That's
Not
the
much.
only thing I saw was Rome when we went through on trucks. And when I came back in on the truck, I unloaded it to USO and got me a cup of coffee and a couple of donuts and sat down in an easy chair and went to sleep. They woke me up next day to go back to camp. So I didn't get to see much of Rome.
So what happened after Italy? Where did you go after Italy?
We went back to Naples and started amphibious training again, and we went to southern France. We made the invasion of southern France. We went in on an LCI, landing craft infantry, and they had a ladder that went down the side of it to unload. Well, I've been trained with Bangalore torpedoes to blow wire, so when we hit the beach, I was number 1 off the ship.
Oh my goodness.
Carrying a Bangalore torpedo. Thank God there wasn't any wire there, so we didn't have to blow the wire. We didn't even get our feet wet because the ship ran right up on the beach. So after we got on the beach a little ways, I told my team, I said, well, throw the Bangalore torpedoes over in the ditch. We don't need them anymore. We never did run into any wire. Then we moved on up the beach. And the sniper shot at the colonel, shot the leaf off his shoulder, and the lieutenant was standing right behind him, and it got him right through the neck.
Oh my goodness.
So he didn't make it. Then we just kept going on up.
All right. So now, you mentioned that you had some sniper training.
Yeah.
And so you kind of went from being a mechanic and into that rifle division, and then that segued into this sniper training. The other thing that I wanted to make sure that we captured is during all of this time, I'm assuming you came into some direct fire
Oh,
with the Germans.
definitely. We were under direct fire quite a bit. In fact, I got that one sheet of paper there that says 132 days without relief. And we had 400 days of combat during the whole war.
I mean, I don't want it to sound like a sort of a silly question, but what is that like when you're under? I mean, when you're under constant fire like that? I mean, how are you reacting to that when that's going
I
on?
was scared,
You're scared. Okay, I'm sure.
but you do what you had to do. You didn't have any choice.
So you were part of the liberation of Rome, and then also helped down in France as well.
Oh yeah, France had the embassy. French embassy had a deal down here a few years ago, and in Fredericksburg, they called all the guys that helped liberate southern France, and they gave us a certificate and all that stuff for doing it. That was a big deal.
It was a big deal. The paper doesn't represent what a big deal it was.
Now, they gave us a big meal, and then they gave us a paper stating we'd been liberating southern France.
So now after France, are you able to get some relief? Do you come back to the States, or what happened after
No.
France?
We kept going until the end of the war ended. We went on up through France and into Germany and on up into Missouri. We were in a town called Bad Tolz when the war ended.
So I imagine quite a celebration when they finally announced that the war is over.
Well, you know,
Where were you when that happened?
I got a break, and when this Jeep hit the mine and the driver got wounded, they put me in as the driver. So I was way out from the outfit when the Jeep broke down. And I sat there for a couple of days, and the chaplain came by and he says, "You need some help?" I said, "Yeah, I need to get back to my outfit." He said, "By the way, do you know the war ended 2 days ago?" I said, "No, I didn't know it." So we sat there for a couple of days after the war ended, waiting to get back to the outfit. Then the CO called me in. He said, "Well, you've been in the outfit the longest. We're going to send you home." Then they came out with a point system. You had to have 85 points to go home. And the supply sergeant had 120-some points, so they canceled my shipment home and sent him instead. So I waited around 3 months more before I ever got to come back to the States.
So then when you came back to the States, did you then go back to, did you go back to Indiana?
Oh, yes. Went back to my hometown, Sullivan, big city, 5,000 population.
I think you spent some time working at your father's place
I worked
then?
with my father. He had a used scrap metal business. I worked with him for a while. Then I went to work with the Sullivan Dairy there, worked 12 hours a day, 6 days a week, and I cleared about $25 a week.
So you were making big money then, huh?
All big money. Then I transferred up to Fort Wayne, Indiana, and went to work for General Electric. They put me on a night shift at $1.25 an hour. That's where I was working when I reenlisted.
So what made you decide to reenlist? Because you were out, you were done with
I was
combat and
just,
all that?
I didn't mind the Army that much after the combat was all over with. Met a lot of friends, got to see lots of places.
So when you reenlisted, then where did they send you?
They sent me to Vin Hill Farms there in Warrenton, Virginia, 1947, October 47.
Well, there was a big army base there then.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
sure.
Then that was the Army Security Agency. Then about somewhere around March, I think it was, I went to Arlington Hall, which was our headquarters, and volunteered to go to the Philippines. So they sent me to the Philippines as a truck driver. And when I go over there, I started working as a mechanic in the motor pool. Then we moved to Clark Field, and they made me a motor sergeant up there.
Mm-hmm.
Then after a while, they transferred me into utility sergeant, just doing odd jobs around that company. That's what I was doing when I came back to the States.
Well, now when you were in the Philippines, I think the whole conflict had started in Korea.
All this started a conflict in Korea in 1950. I was a staff sergeant. They called me in the orderly room and they says, "We got a deal for you." I said, "Yeah, what's that?" "We're going to make you a first lieutenant." I said, "Gee, that's great. What's the catch?" And they said, "They need officers in Korea." I said, "Forget it. I'm not going." So I didn't go.
So then how long was your stay in the Philippines?
43 months.
43 months. That was I'm sure, a big difference from being in Europe. I mean, I've
Oh,
been in both
definitely.
places, but Philippines is lovely.
All they had was the Hucks shooting up the place. Stealing water buffalo. And
So now, you left the Philippines, then you came back to Vint Hill. Now, you were at Vint Hill for quite a long time.
well, I was in Ben Hill from 51 to 55. They sent me to Taiwan. I pulled a tour of duty in Taiwan, 15 months. That's all they let us stay over there because they said they had too many diseases people could catch. So 15-month tour there, and I was back to the States.
Now, when you were in Taiwan, what were you doing over there?
I was motor sergeant.
Motor sergeant.
Actually, they sent me over there as a machinist. When I got there, they didn't have a machine shop. So they sent me down to MAG, down the headquarters of MAG down in Taipei. And they didn't have a machine shop, so they put me in the motor pool inspecting vehicles for damage and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And they found out up at the company what I was doing, so they transferred me back to the company and made me motor sergeant. And that's what I was doing when I finally came back to the States again in 1957.
57.
January 57.
So when you came back after that, did you go back to Vint Hill again?
Oh, yeah. That was my home. I went back to Vin Hill from 57 to 65. And then they sent me back to Germany again. Right back where my division went through during the Second World War. And I pulled 14 months there. I told the captain when I got there that I was going to retire, and he says, "No, you can't do that." I said, "You're going to be around a while." I said, "Well, you better get another NCO to replace me because I'm going." So when I put in my papers, well, he put in his papers too. He said, if you're going to retire, I am too. So I retired from Germany.
And that was
66.
66, and you went in 43. So quite a career. Quite a career in the military.
21 years, 7 months, and 12 days.
There you go.
Oh, the military's a good career if you like it. And they're paying good money these days. I went in 1943, they was paying $50 a month. And I had an allotment made out to my parents, and I was drawing $21.50 across the board. But I always had money to spend.
Well, that was good. That's a good thing.
Money back in those days went a long way.
Yeah, a lot farther than it does now.
A dollar now is like a penny used to be.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think back to when you were in Europe as a 19, 20-year-old. You're very fortunate you made it through that.
I was 21 when I came back to the States.
And then during all this time too, I think you were able to start a family and...
Well, after I came back to the States,
Mm-hmm.
and I got discharged and re-enlisted and all that stuff.
So a long career in the military, and then when you got back, what did you do work-wise? I mean, because I know you had...
Well, like I said, I worked for my dad for a while, and I worked for the dairy.
Mm-hmm.
I drove a taxi cab in my hometown. I went to work for G-Rater Corporation in Manassas.
Mm-hmm.
Worked there for about 7 years, I think it was. Then I got a job back out in Vint Hill as a civilian, working for civil service. And I worked there at Lady One, and I quit.
Wow, so you had a long career at Vint Hill.
Oh, yeah. That was my home away from home.
Now, when you got out of the military, then did you become active in different groups like Veterans of Foreign War and
Oh,
things
yeah,
like that?
VFW. And I've been a member of the Legion for 68 years this
Mm-hmm.
year. Of course, I've been, VFW only been about 12, 14 years. I enlisted in the VFW in 46, rather 45 when I first got out.
Mm-hmm.
Then I let my membership drop. Then I rejoined the VFW here in Culpeper about 12, 14 years ago.
Well, there aren't that many of the World War II veterans around. I mean, I'm sure you probably know that.
We just lost one a couple weeks ago. The World War II vets in VFW, I think we got about 3 or 4 at the most.
Mm-hmm. Well, I know during this series we've talked to George Taylor and Howard Mills. I mean, they're a couple of the older ones in this area that were there during World War II.
George Taylor, he's 94.
Mm-hmm.
He's older than I am.
Mm-hmm.
But he goes to the park here in town and walks around it twice a day.
He walks every day.
Twice a day.
He walks all the time. He's in great shape.
I wish I was in good shape as
Well,
he
you're
is.
not doing so bad now.
Oh, I'm not doing too bad, but I'm still walking with that cotton-picking walker.
Well, you're doing pretty good. And I understand you're quite a game player, too. You like to do bingo and some of these other games.
Oh, yeah. Play bingo 3 times a week.
So are you a big winner?
I have won a few. I hit the jackpot out here at Riva just before I fell this last time.
Mm-hmm.
Got $500 for having the right number, and then I hit the jackpot for $3,400.
Oh, my goodness. Congratulations.
Of course, I play the lottery all the time, too.
Yeah, I keep
I hit the lottery for $10,000 a couple years ago.
We, I mean, I don't think I've met anybody that's won anything with the lottery. And I mean, some people are lucky that way.
Well, a
I think
couple of
you're,
weeks ago, that's about a month or so ago, hit the scratch-off ticket for $250, and one of the other scratch-off tickets hit for 500. I've been
I
pretty
think I
lucky.
better have you start buying me some tickets, or I'll give you money. You can buy me tickets.
I've been pretty lucky.
You have been. Now, did you have any of your children that also have gone into the military?
And my son went in as soon as he graduated from high school.
I think that was what, Air Force?
He went in the Air
Air Force.
Force. But he didn't like it. He wanted me to get him out because he was my one surviving son. I said, no way. You went in for 6, you stay 6. So he stayed in until they started that FAT program. If you're overweight so much you got out, well, he put on more weight. He got out in about 5.5 years, I think he's in.
Well, I know that your service was during a different time where service was valued differently, and but it sounds to me like you're an advocate for it. I mean, the military
Oh, I think
seemed
the
to.
military is the greatest thing going. The military now, they start out at about $1,500–$1,600 a month, just when they first go in. Like I said, when I went in, it was $50 a month.
Now you saw a big part of the world. I mean, parts over in Europe and Philippines, Taiwan. Are any of those areas, did you enjoy more than others? I mean, if you had a
Well, I
chance to
think
go
the
back.
Philippines is a real fine place because the temperature stays around 70 degrees year round. Of course, they have a typhoon once in a while. Had one earthquake while I was over there.
You were stationed, I think, rather close to Manila when you were over there.
I was right below Manila when I first got there. It's pretty nice duty.
Yeah, and you were there, as I'm remembering it, you were there for a little over 3 years when you were in the
I began to
Philippines.
think I was going to be a native.
And your time in Europe, I know you didn't, you spent time there, but I don't know how much you really got to soak it in because you were pretty much, involved in infantry there.
So when I went back over, I went into a general depot, run the machine shop for them. I had a foreman, a German foreman under me, of course, because I had all Germans except 2, and they were French. And he had to tell them what to do and everything. But he spoke good English. I had my division history book with me, and he's telling that all the camps and stuff didn't happen. I brought my division history book in and opened it up to a couple pages. I said, how about this? There's old dead people laying all over the yard and boxcars full of them. He said, that didn't happen. I said, did that happen? He didn't have any more to say after that. Yeah, we liberated a couple of those camps.
Yeah, I don't know about those kind of memories, if you necessarily want to remember those so much.
Well, I've been lucky. All these people coming down with PTSD and all that stuff. I've never been bothered about having a dream about the war at all since I got out. It's a funny thing. They're just blanked out. You just do what you had to do.
Now, when you were involved with the liberation of some of those camps, what was your role there? I mean, what happened when you went in there?
People laying all over the yard dead. And they had that one outfit where they had the ovens where they cooked them and all that stuff. was pretty bad. Yeah, but it's a funny thing, I've never been bothered by any of the memories. I just blanked them out, I guess.
Mm-hmm. But you made it. You made it all the way through, and you're here to sit here and share some of those with us today.
Well, you know the funny thing about it? January the 4th, 1945, I come down with malaria in Germany.
In Germany?
You tell me how that happened.
I don't know. I was going to say, you tell me. Now, if you'd said you came down with malaria in the Philippines,
No.
I would understand.
I came down after the war ended with malaria.
Mm-hmm.
I was in the hospital quite a while. My temperature got up to 107.4 at one time.
Oh, my.
They called my company and told me I wasn't going to make it. But I did. I fooled them. So when I got discharged in 45, first month home, I got a check for $10 a month on disability for malaria. So then later on, about 6 months, they raised it to $12. Then a year later, they sent me to a doctor in my hometown. He checked me over and he sent in a report I was cured, and they took my pension away from me.
But I'm sure you got that again because
No.
No.
I've been trying ever since, the last 4 or 5 years, trying to get it back. They said, no way. Why? They said, I'm cured. You don't get cured of malaria.
No, it stays with you, I think.
It
May,
does.
may surface. But you didn't have, you were very fortunate when you were an infantryman during all that time because you didn't get wounded or anything. You managed to skate through pretty well.
I couldn't shoot that straight,
Yeah,
or else I outrun the bullets.
apparently.
I was so scared I outrun them, that's what it was. I never thought I'd live to be this old.
Well,
Back when I was young, in my teens and so, if somebody lived 50, 60 years old, they was a real old man.
now not so more. Now the 50s, now the 50s and 60s is considered middle age.
I know.
People are living a lot longer.
Living like 100 and over 100. A lot of the actors and actresses living to 100.
But your mind, I mean, you remember things. Your mind is very sharp.
I can remember stuff that happened 50, 60 years ago,
I
but
know.
I can't remember something that happened last week.
The 36 suffered a lot of casualties because you saw a lot of action going through Italy. Do you remember one of the tougher battles?
Battle of San Pietro.
Tell me about that one.
We lost 1,100 men there in my division. Ernie Powell was with us at the time, and they made a movie of it.
Really?
Battle of San Pietro. The Germans were just dug in so good and had defensive position and everything, and it's hard to get into. My regiment was on Mount Samukro. They called the hill 1205. And that's where my division, well, my battalion was. Well, we finally just drove them out. Then the Rapido River, we lost 1,500 men there.
Did I hear that you were in the Battle of the Bulge?
Oh, yes.
You served in the Battle of the Bulge.
Right.
What was your role during that battle?
Well, I was a rifleman at the time. We went up to relieve the bulge, actually, after the war, after they'd made the breakout. Started the bulge. Well, we were in Strasbourg, France, just in a holding position in January. And then they relieved us and pulled us back, and we wasn't back just a few days, and they pulled us up and sent us up to the bulge.
In
Well,
more
it
ways
seemed
than one.
like it was just another battle, though, to us. We'd been through so much before that. You realized we'd have been in Italy for a year and then almost a year and then moved on up through France and all that. So we'd been in battle quite a while. Well, we moved in and took over all of them. The woods and the town and everything else. What made it so funny was as we were going up, we saw all these troops and they say, "Well, we're glad to see some veterans coming in here." And veterans, we just had a whole bunch of replacements straight from the States.
Really?
Because
Wow.
we'd lost a lot of people. Not so much in that battle. Time we got up there, it was kind of calming down a little bit.
Were you trained as a sniper?
Oh yeah,
So did
the
you?
Rangers came over and went to Anzio after they made the invasion and all that stuff, and they almost got wiped out. So then they took all the Rangers that was left and made a sniper school out of them. Taught us how to shoot and how to conceal ourselves and all that stuff.
Now, why did you volunteer?
Well, it was all. If I volunteered, all I had to worry about was me. If I stayed in the platoon, they usually gave me a squad or something, and I had to worry about the rest of the troops. And I didn't want to be responsible for other people's lives. Not necessarily enjoyed it, but it was pretty interesting, that's for sure.
Were there battles where you were an active sniper?
Not really. We was moving so fast I didn't have a chance. We were back in the rest area and they put 25 drivers out of my regiment hauling ammunition to Anzio. And I got volunteered to be an assistant driver. I told them, I said, I can't even drive a truck. But I ended up volunteering to go as a truck driver. So we hauled ammunition up to Anzio. We'd get on LSTs and go up the coast to Anzio and unload there. And then unload the ammunition and get on the LST and go back down to Naples. We made 5 trips, I think it was. And the Germans were bombing, well, they were shelling Anzio all the time, and airplanes, they were dive bombing and everything else. It was fun. I was just so damn scared I just couldn't do anything else. Well, we pulled up in France there on a hill and dug in for the night. And there was 2-man foxholes, of course. So there's 2 guys in this one foxhole. One of them went to sleep for an hour or 2. The guy woke him up and said, "It's your turn to take over." And he said, "Okay." He said, "Here's a grenade." He said, "Lay it down there." He said, "I can't." He said, "Why?" He said, "I pulled a pin." He said, "Put the pin back in." He said, "I can't. I threw it down the hill." He sat there for 2 hours holding that live grenade in his hand.
I guess that's one way to keep yourself awake.
So they called the first sergeant. He come up there and they told him what happened. He said, "Well, I don't know what to do." He said, "Throw the damn grenade down the hill." They threw it down the hill and somebody yelled counterattack and everybody opened up.
I guess it's kind of nice to have.
Kind of funny now, but at the time it wasn't so comical. We were back in a rest area there in Italy. And we had a guy from Tennessee. that was a BAR man. So they put us back in the rest area, and we were going to show the big shots how the thing had operated. He was a BAR man, and they put up a target, 2x4s. It says, I will show you how they shoot the BAR. He cut loose with the BAR, and that target fell down. They went up and he shot both legs off of it.
That's hilarious. Oh my goodness.
Said, I'm not shooting a damn paper. He was a regular Tennessean, though. He was drunk all the time.
You capturing some German prisoners with a handgun by yourself.
Oh, yeah.
All right, this is this is incredible. Please tell me about it.
It was long toward the end of the war. They were wanting to surrender. So I was driving a Jeep at the time. I pulled in this town, and I saw a German go into a house. So I got out and went after him. And when we got in there, he wanted to surrender, and he said, we got another one in the bathroom right now. He wants to surrender too. So we went back out and started up the street, and there they started coming out of all these houses, surrendering. They wanted the war to end too. I got 27 prisoners that day. I was carrying a 45.
27 prisoners with a 45?
Yeah. I was just wanting to get the war over. Well, it was just a job that had to be done.
I'd say you did it pretty damn well.
Yeah, my outfit did a pretty good job.
Do you still think about some of your old squad mates?
I remember a few of them, but we had quite a turnover.
I mean, would you consider yourself a lucky person?
I'd say I was the luckiest guy was ever born. For instance, we were back in a rest area, more or less, training to go back into combat. And we were moving up a hill, using firepower and stuff just to teach the guys, the replacements, how to do it. Mm-hmm. And the guy next to me in my squad had the rifle grenade launcher on his rifle. So he was supposed to, when we got to a certain spot, he was supposed to shoot the rifle grenade. Well, we got up there and he started to shoot it, and for some reason, I don't know why, I just dropped to the ground. And that rifle grenade exploded on the end of his rifle and wounded about 3 or 4 guys that was next to me. And I didn't get a scratch out of it. Just instinct, I don't know why, I just fell to the ground. And when he shot, the thing exploded and wounded 3 or 4 guys.
Did you have
That's why I say I was one of the luckiest guys going.
That's incredible. Do you remember any other close calls?
Well, I drove up. I was finally ended up driving a Jeep for the company, mm-hmm. And I went up to one of the platoons that was in a building. I think it was Strasbourg, France, I believe. I parked my Jeep and went inside, and while I was inside, they dropped a 120 mortar shell right next to my Jeep, blew out all 4 tires, ripped the seats all to pieces, and busted the muffler. But I was inside instead of in the car, in the Jeep.
That's a pretty close call.
So that's why I say I was the luckiest guy going. I was always doing something like that.
It was my understanding that you came across, the 36th Division came across some work camps.
Oh, yeah.
Some labor camps and some concentration camps.
One named Landsberg.
Was that the first one you came
That was
across?
the first one.
Now you said Landsberg. Can you tell me about that?
Well, there were dead bodies laying all over the ground and boxcars full of bodies. And
How did you and the division deal with seeing those things?
there wasn't much you could do. What live people were still there, we took care of them, but there wasn't too many live ones left. We stayed there for a few days, but we moved on.
Now, when you stayed there for a few days at Landsberg, what was your duty? What was your
Well,
job?
I didn't have any special duty. I just stayed with the company. But the division itself, they treated all the prisoners that were left.
Did you see any more camps in your time there?
Oh, I saw a couple more. I don't remember the names of them.
Now, when you saw those camps, were they pretty much like Landsberg, or were they smaller, bigger, different?
They were all about the same.
With your comrades, with your friends, did you guys talk about it?
Oh yeah, we talked about it quite a bit. It kind of got all of them irritated pretty good. Made them want to end the war that much quicker.
I can't even imagine. I really.
Well, they've got the Holocaust Museum here.
That's what I was going to
DC.
ask you. Have you been to the Holocaust Museum?
Nope,
Okay.
No desire.
I got no desire.
And why is that?
I don't want to see that stuff again. Once is enough.
That's
Oh, I went to the Philippines in 1947.
Now, what did you do there?
I was running a machine shop.
So I'm assuming that's fixing up Jeeps and stuff like that?
It was all after the war ended and everything. And
Oh, okay. So what was your day-to-day service like in the Philippines? What'd you do day to day? In the Philippines, like what was your daily routine?
oh, I'd get up in the morning and go to the motor pool. And when I first got over there, went over as a truck driver. Then I ended up running the machine shop because of that machinist training. It was just a regular day. You get up go to work at 8 o'clock in the morning and get off at 4:30 in the afternoon.
Wow, interesting.
It was good duty because the weather stayed so nice all the time. About 70-degree temperature year round. Used to run a truck in to pick up the guys at this little town down the road. So the CO or the duty officer told me that I had to run in one night. I started to go and the machine guns were shooting across the road where the Hucks were stealing water buffalo. And I told the CO, this lieutenant, I said, I'm not driving through that stuff. So he got in the truck and went on in himself. I told him, I said, I ain't driving through that machine gun fire. That was the trouble in the Philippines. The Hucks, which were, I guess they were, I don't know what they'd call dissidents or what you'd call them. But they were always causing trouble. Oh, they were stealing stuff and stealing from the military and they were shooting up people all the time. We had a few people got shot traveling down the road. It stayed about the same all the time I was over there.
You went back to Germany after
Yeah.
all this was over with.
1965.
Tell me about your trip back to Germany.
Well, they sent me to Permisons. That was right down on the French border. And that's right where my division went through during the Second World War. So I recognize all the towns. And, well, didn't look the same because they'd rebuilt most of the stuff. I took over the machine shop there in the general depot. And I had a German foreman because I had all Germans working in the shop except for two Frenchmen. So I had to have him to interpret all the jobs that had to be done. We were talking one day, he spoke pretty good English.
Mm-hmm.
We were talking, I said something about the camps. He said that didn't happen, so I had my division history book with me. And I brought it into the shop and opened it up to a couple pages, and I said, how about this? There's dead people laying all over their yard, boxcars full of people, stacked up where they'd killed them. So he didn't have much to say after that. Because when I got over there, I told the captain who was in charge of the depot, he says, do you know why you're here? I said, I guess somebody asked for me. He said, well, I requested you from the VA or DA, and they sent you over. I said, well, you better be requesting another one because I got 14 months to do the retirement. Of course, he says, you're not going to retire. I said, you watch me. I was scared from the time I got over there to the time I came home. Anybody that said they wasn't scared is full of bull. We just went ahead and did what we had to do. What we were told to do. We had a bunch of old NCOs well, they'd been in the National Guard for years. They knew everything that was to be done. They were pretty good. We went all the way through to Bavaria. I hate to think how many battles. We had 400 days of combat, so you can figure my division had 400 days of combat. We had one time it was 132 days without relief. Can you imagine wearing the same clothes for 132 days?
Can you tell me about your wife? When did you guys get married? How did you meet?
Oh, we met in Front Royal at the dance hall there in Front Royal.
And what year was this?
Back in 48, somewhere along in there. I came to Vin Hill Farms in 1947. When I re-enlisted the first time. And all the guys were hanging out in Front Royal, so I started going over with them. Maybelle Jenkins was her name. She was a country girl, of course. Lived at Bentonville, Virginia, up next to Front Royal. We had a good life, about 60-some years of marriage.
Really?
She passed away 1st of January of 2009.
09? Oh, I'm sorry to hear about that.
She had Alzheimer's for about 4 or 5 years, which was a heck of a disease.
Yes, it is. Yes, I see a couple pictures. She was a beautiful woman.
Yeah, that was taken. We was getting ready to go to dance at Vin Hill Farms, 1960.
So did you and your wife go to a lot of dances together?
Oh yeah, we used to go to Vin Hill all the time.
That's wonderful.
Go to the NCO club.
Did you guys have any kids?
Yeah, I got 3 right now. I had 4. One son got killed back in '62.
So you have 3 kids now. How many grandchildren do you have?
Good God. Grandkids, I got, I think, 10. Great grandkids, I got about 10 or 12.
Would you go back and do it again?
I don't think I'm in shape to do it again.
Well, I mean,
If it was necessary, I guess I would.
would you volunteer?
I didn't volunteer before, but I knew I was going to get drafted, so I just waited till they drafted me.
Oh, nice.
I was 19 years old when they drafted me. Big man, 132 pounds,
Soaking wet?
soaking wet. It's like when I left the outfit to come back to the States. First sergeant called me and handed me a handful of medals and said, "This is what you got coming." No paperwork, no nothing. I knew what they were for, and that was it. Actually, I never did know what the Bronze Star was for. Because in 1952, I was stationed out at Van Hill Farm, Virginia. I got a cardboard tube through the mail from VA. And it had a citation in there for a cluster for my Bronze Star was awarded in December 1943.
So about, 9 years after the fact?
Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
And I never did know for sure when I got the Bronze Star, so I don't know what the heck happened.
All right. Well, thank you very much for doing this.
You're welcome.
And thank you for joining us during this interview. You can look to see it on Culpeper Media Network. You can see those interviews. They're up there. We hope that you've enjoyed this, and please join us again as we have other interviews with other veterans.